Okay, we're all set. Hi. Yeah, I hope everybody's been having a good day. It's been an interesting one. Okay, I hope people are getting jobs done and doing the drawing and the things and the stuff in the places. And I haven't yet posted today's one-page story. I got it drawn. I'm just in the course of scanning it, and So I'll have that put up this afternoon. I'm trying to space out also when I put the postcard up and when I put up the one-page story. And I've been working on a couple of other things today as well. So, it's been a fairly productive day, and I'll show you some tidbits of that in a second. But here's today's postcard. 18. Yeah. This is a fun one. I'm curious to see if anybody figures out who's in the image. It's pretty cool, dude. Like, it's not too hard to figure out, man. Anyways, so yeah. Tomorrow's page is number 19. And I'm very excited for that. Which means that at this point in time, we're clearly more than halfway done for this project. I had a toss-up yesterday, just to let people in on this. Yesterday I did Edge of 17, Stevie Nicks. And I had also considered doing Night After Night. And if anybody's familiar with what Night After Night is, it's by Lenny and the Squigtones. And I'm not familiar if you're... I'm not sure if you're familiar with their work, their oeuvre. But it's really funny. It's a really funny song, and it's a reference that I don't think anyone would get. But I really wanted to do Night After Night by Lenny and the Squigtones, and I had to restrain myself. So consider myself restrained. In addition to that, I got to get a haircut because I realized that at this stage in time, I'm starting to have sting hair. Which is, mixed blessing, I suppose. So, I'm going to do something today with drawing today's page, which is a little bit of a different approach, but bear with me, we'll walk through it in a second. But basically what I'm going to do is the method that I've shown people how I'll draw in my sketchbook by using a very different style of approach, and to sort of kind of encourage people to do that as well. Okay, so here's today's page. In addition to that, I've been doing some other stuffs. There's the cover for the first book that is now out and on Amazon, on my Amazon page, and the link is, of course, down below. And besides having that, I've also finished off this cover. So this is what's being submitted on Friday. So this is the next project. And so I've continued a little bit of the motif here. With this cover, there's the name at the bottom. Actually, the name is smaller than that. The name is the exact same spot as the name is on the new book, and the same size. It was lifted and moved over a little bit on this cover, and which I think is a little more fun. And I've centered the logo at the top instead of having it off to the side, and that's largely to do with the graphic elements of the image itself. There's a couple of fun little tidbits that we're going to be having some contests with this cover, to see if people recognize a couple things in there. But this is the cover for Alphabet Book, and all the interior pages are done, and the logo and everything and all that, and got the ISBN number on it, and then now I'm just finishing off One Page Extravaganza Volume 2. So things are proceeding apace, which I'm pretty pleased with. So yeah, What else have I been doing? So there's the postcard. I showed you that. Here is the whole cover in process right now. But, oh, I also did this. This is just something fun that just some graphic stuff that I was putting together. However, let's get on with today's page. So yeah, I hope that people are, if you're taking part in the postcard challenge, I hope you're enjoying it. I find it to be stimulating and interesting, and I think that I try to get out, because I got a lot going on right now. I'm trying my best to get out and see what other people are doing, and to try to be encouraging to my fellow creatives. And time has been really compressed for me right now, so I'm having a hard time getting to that. Let there be light. So, if I haven't been thumbsing up everybody of late, I'm sorry, and I'm trying to get down on that bad sound. I just, like I said, life is interesting at the moment. So here is, I want to sort of show you something other than my belly. Okay, so this is, where are we at? Okay, so hold on, that's just the new page. So here is the old sketchup books. Now, with the old, I gotta go back a ways. So with the old sketchup books, one of the things that I'll do is that I'll use these chisel-tipped, inexpensive water-based markers. And there's two sides. Of course, your standard marker tip, but then there's a nice little broad chisel tip. Let me see. There, you can see it now, at the other end of it. So there's that guy and that guy, and or gal. And so what I'll do is I'll rough in a composition using this. One of these, I've got a bunch of different colors. Now I have a whole spectrum of colors for these. The reason that I use these ones is because in the course of buying the different 12 packs of markers, these are duplicates. And so rather than having duplicates of certain colors inside the box and not making the most of that, I thought I'd throw them into my little trays that I have here immediately on my desk, so that which you can see in my video of my studio tour that I posted recently. But anyhow, you can have them handy and close and nearby, and so that you can utilize them on a regular basis. So what I'm doing here isn't very extravagant, and what it is that I'm using a base color, and I'm drawing the undertones in things, and I'm drawing the intermediate value, the halfway point color, the gray tone, whatever you want to call it. And I'll use these markers for that specifically, and then I'll come in with in the case of the oranges here, the pink as well, I'll use this red color. In the case of this light blue, I'll just grab a blue pen, and so these guys hash in the rough elements for the composition, and then this one, I don't even know where I am in the studio. Hi, how are you? And then this, the ballpoint pen comes in and pulls out all the details. Okay, so the rough intermediate tones of the composition and just getting a rough sense of the composition in and of itself is done with the water-based chisel tip, and then the details are done with the pen. So that's the gist, and you can sit down and you can get all kinds of interesting stuff to happen. And if you allow yourself space for the experimentation of it, like I drew this page, okay, and then when I got to this bottom panel, I realized I don't like this bottom panel. I need it to have a more. The problem with this panel is that the scary element, the scary character that's causing all this kerfuffle up above, he's the same size, if not smaller, than the character immediately up above and blowing up. So the emotional impact would resonate exactly the same or less than. And so what I wanted to do was to give a sense of imposing dread because of all of this nasty business. So I drew it on the bottom of the next page. And this has much more emotive impact than this does. It's a little more mysterious than this is. There's a little more wonderful intermediate tone than I can show here. So, and I'm not using white. If I can stay away from it entirely, if we're just focusing on the marks that we're putting down. So that has been the gist of what I'm up to. And, you know, we're having some fun in the sun, folks. Boy, oh boy, the hits just keep on coming. So we'll do a little bit of that today. Now I'm gonna, sorry for the noise, I'm gonna put those over there. And I'll post Paula's suggestion of car karaoke this afternoon. In the meantime, we're going to work on a page for today in this method, and to see if that helps anybody to have a sense of this approach. Okay, and so we'll put together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of figure out a little space on a piece of paper here, the composition in and of itself. And then we're just going to have fun in the sun and go all out and just draw the thing. So I'm going through old suggestions and seeing okay, I got a suggestion from, I did that. That isn't checked off. Why didn't I check that off? Oh, that is checked off. I've got a suggestion here from Marguerite of chopsticks tied to a broom. That's kind of fun. And then I've got check. Chicken eating KFC. I don't want to do that. That's kind of dark. So again, as usual, if you've got a one-page story suggestion that you want to throw at me, please feel free to put it in the comments or the chat during the live stream, or in the comments on any video or social media post. And we'll do our best to get down with that bad sound. Okay. Grosvenor British family. I don't know what that was in relationship to. The white apes of the Congo. Okay, there we go. The white apes of the Congo. That's what we'll do today. I'll put it on a post-it and I'll stick it on our paper. White apes of the Congo. And I'm not sure who suggested that. It's one of the conspiracy suggestions that we had way back when. So I don't have a person to refer to their name. So I got into the big sheet of 11 by 17. It's what I drew the last page on. And, you know, this can be a little tricky, because how do I do white apes using a color? Maybe I'll do the blue. Maybe we'll use the blue in order to try this out. Alright, so we've got, I'm going to switch to a clearer piece of paper as well. There we go. Just because this is the paper that I keep underneath me while I'm working, so that, you know, I have a place that catches all my marks and things. Alright, so I've got a sheet of paper right here that has lines on it. Let's not use you. Here's a piece of board. Okay, so we've got our page size. Our suggestion is white apes of the Congo. So this is one of those conspiracy theories, is that there's white apes of the Congo. Susanna says, "Hi Chris, I'm curious to see that suggestion take life." The one for today, oh yeah, I just have to finish scanning it and stitching together. Right now it's in 3 parts. So, and the scanner's over there, and that's too far across the room. So, we'll get to it. So this is one of our conspiracy pages, and so everybody that was in the chat when we were talking about these conspiracies that day, I wrote down all of them, but unfortunately I didn't catch everybody's names as I was going. So, we will come back to that. White Apes of the Congo is a conspiracy that I think it has something to do with King Solomon's mines, and that in the Congo area of Africa is that they're supposed to be guarded by great majestic apes. So, you know, that's the interesting idea. So I thought we could do a couple different images of these guys on our page. That's one approach. Hi, Linda. Welcome aboard. So we could have a couple little smiley faces there, or we can, and we can scatter those on the page. So if we move them around the top of the page like this, and then behind there we could float an image of the Amazon, right? So there's the Amazon. There's smiling monkeys. I know apes aren't monkeys. I know. So there's our apes, and so there's our start. There's our big introduction into our narrative, and we can use that as basically the top piece of our page. But what we can do as we get into this is we can. One of the things that I might want to try is to illustrate a bunch of apes crashing towards us. And so if I do that, and we basically look at this image as coming across, but we'll break elements of this image out and over top of the Congo or the Amazonian rainforest. So is that in the Congo? I think it is. Anyhow. So, and then we'll have the apes charging. So by doing that, basically and the reason that I'm showing you about figuring out a page like this in advance of drawing it is that I'm going to need to draw this panel, before I draw this panel. So you could basically go 1, 2, 3, and then you come down here and go 4, and that tells you which parts of their bodies and their fists and so forth are cutting across into this panel. So this would need to be drawn 5th. And then there's the bottom part of our page. So what are we at? That's about roughly 3/5 that we'll have taken up at this point. And so the last 2/5 of our page is where the course of our story goes about the danger of the white apes of the Congo. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. Is that I can sit down and I can sort of try to draw in these panel shapes in advance, or we can just sort of wing it and put it together as we go. Either one works in my mind, but we'll see what we've got here. So I'm also going to try a little bit different today. I've got the happy pencil. Hello, I'm very happy. So am I. And we might incorporate, because it's a dark blue, and we might incorporate this as well. But first and foremost, I got to lift my chair up a little bit because I realized that my chair slid down. Woo! Look at me, I'm 9 feet tall now. Okay. Hello, everyone. I feel much bigger now. I can actually just see my drawing board better. Jim says, "Excuse me, sir, but do you have a permit to do this show?" Oh, Jim, while you're here, if you're still here, I do have a permit. It looks like this, and did you see that? I'll show you a little bit longer this time. While you're here, I'm going to be asking some of the people that have left reviews for the book if I can use the little snippets of those and some stuff that's coming up right now, because we have the new book ready to go, and that we'll be putting this in to Amazon on Friday. I need there's a couple things I need to do for the textual stuff on the back of the cover. So if anybody that's left a review on the Amazon site doesn't mind that, let me know. And that would include Mr. Jim Luan. All right, so here's our page. We got it laid out. So I'm going to start with this chisel tip, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here in our first panel. Okay, and I'm just drawing this. Yes and yes. Thank you, Jim. So what that means is similar in how I lay out. This sketchbook's crazy. These pages, how I lay this out, where I draw in the orange part before I would draw the red part, or the light blue part before the dark blue part. This is what we're going to do here. So, and my glasses are making me a crazy person on my eyes. So, okay, I've got this all set up now. Maybe I'll make this a little bit brighter. Is that easier on? Yeah? Okay. So here's our layout. We've got already pre-established 3/5 of the drawing is laid in here. So what I'm going to come in is at this first panel, right? I'm going to put this guy in. A really fast and dirty way, by the by, that you can put together a square image is if you've got a ruler like the one that I've got here. I'm measuring equidistant from the outside edge, and then how I'm going to size that panel is just the width of the ruler, right? Except for this one I want to make just a little bit wider. So I lost my mark. There it is. He's hiding down there. Yeah, hiding for a fella. So this is the first panel size. I said I wasn't entirely sure if I'd just draw it or measure it out or not, and well, I've measured it out. I don't remember my own measurements. I'm doing well today. Let's all be just thankful that I remembered to come presentable for the stream. Okay, so there's our panel shape. You can't necessarily see it too darkly, but it's there. And all that is a lightly placed in guideline for me for drawing this panel. So I've got the chisel tip here, and then I'm going to just start to lay in an image of one of the apes. And I'll use both sides of this sucker because some of those marks that I want to put in here, some of these intermediate marks, the chisel tip in the case of a drawing this small is going to be too short. So you can see this really light blue. Let's see if I can get this picked up in the zoom. Just move this over. There you go. Oh, look at me, I'm a monkey face. And so because this is a water-based marker, they're not very forgiving, and in addition to not being overly forgiving, they can make a mess of your paper really easily, and we don't want that. So, but it may well happen. So I'm trying to look for the middle values as I'm drawing this together, and taking into consideration that some of these other details are going to be brought in with the second mark making tool that I use. Hey, Marsh. So I find that this is a really fun and loose way to be able to draw in a composition quickly without fretting too much about things. Now, recognizing that we all draw in different ways and have different strengths and weaknesses, for me, I find this beneficial to just lay it in this way. I find that that's a quick and easily accessible way to get all the structure of a drawing in there, and then you can go in and tune up and do the fine drawing, the fine details. Welcome to the stream, Marsh. How you doing? Okay. I'm really happy with that cover. I'm really happy that cover is coming together so easily on for the alphabet book. So you know, it's one of those things that when it happens, is that too light? It's too light. Away with your pencil. So this is where, like I said before, this is where that detail part comes in. This is where we're going to focus on that. And the reason that the focus on detail, this really doesn't enjoy this color of overhead light. The reason that I focus on the detail with the second tool is because it's like you break it down into two different components for the drawing. One is you want to get your scale and your sort of value system correct, and that's what the first mark making tool gives you. There we go. That's a little better for you, for people, I think. So that's what the first tool gives you, is the ability to get the structure of everything together and to find your way into the drawing. And then the mark making tool, the secondary tool, the darker color, lets you put all the accents in, put all the deep contrast in, give it really, it's the real structure for it. And because you can feel confident that you've in advance done all the work necessary to get the whole image assembled, you don't have to think about that part too much. You don't have to worry about that. You figured that stuff out a few minutes ago. And then the other part of it, of course, is that if you didn't quite get it correctly with that marker, but you really just wanted to get on with it and see if you could tighten it up with the finer details, you can make corrections on that, with that where the light blue went down. And it serves you in the sense that, you know, a lot of it disappears for the most part. It just, like, see, the blue is leaking over here above the eyebrow, well, in the eyebrow, and you know, that's okay. That's completely acceptable in this process, because it's a sketchy kind of approach to the drawing. And I mean, I can even come in, if I felt the need to, with a white and pick out some of these areas here between the lines to enhance those. But I find that it really expedites my drawing to take this approach. It also helps me to really sharpen up on whether or not I am you know, pushing myself, learning a little bit in my drawing, and really sort of growing in my understanding of the high contrast in light. So there's benefits that I get from this. Now, you know, it might not be for everybody. I understand that. See, here's the brow ridge we figured out with this simple shape with the chisel tip. Whoop, whoop, there we go, right? But it, even while we're working, it sort of helps to inform us, like even as we're going through the drawing, it helps to inform us in advance of that. Hey, here's where we considered the differentiation in the light and in the fur. It just adds a little more something to the drawing itself with such a simple thing. So I highly recommend people grab just an inexpensive type marker like this, just because of the benefits that it can provide you. So here's our first ape that we're putting in. So the idea is to start the page with, you know, here's some apes just giving us the old stink eye in the woods, in the jungle here, the mighty jungle. Anyways, you're welcome. So we figured out where the placement of the mouth was, so that makes it an easy decision for us to put that in. And I just feel like, just give me a sec, folks. Has that made it a little bit clean? I think my lens is just a little dirty there. I feel like that's a little better now, so sorry about that. Yeah, it's a little cleaner now. Thinking about the shapes in the chimp in the face, we've got this part here, which of course everybody gets right in their Halloween costumes with the monkey face. But what they don't realize is that that muscle actually curls inside here, and so the actual part of that lip is like this on the side of the face. Did that completely out of frame. I'm so sorry. So I'm talking about how most people think about this shape, and what they forget is the divots inside the cheek, so that the actual, there's the nose, and the actual lip of the ape has this indentation here. And now you know. And as they say, knowing is a whole bunch of the thing. Something like that. So I'm going to come in with his bottom lip. There we go. And there's his chin whiskers. Boy, this fella needs a shave. So we'll go in here. I'm going to come back in with this guy again. So I know he's got an ear up here, and I know he's got an ear up here. So with that, being conscious of that, we'll put in his hairline. I know what you're thinking. You're like, that guy's got some punky hair. You know what? He does. It's all how you wear it, folks. In my case, it's all about how little you have of it left. So I'm using different amounts of pressure for different light and dark lines with the pen. So there he is. You can hear him saying, you can just, if you listen carefully, you can hear the ape saying, "Pardon me, but do you have any grey poupon?" And then we'll do the rest of this. Hair going back to the central point. So he's not some weird looking bald guy. And we'll extend out the cheeks here on him. And we can start to edge in some of his muscles and how those come together. And we've got these fun little blue marks that we've put in here just to add something to the area. And I can drop in a little pinch of white if I feel the need over top of these spots. But let's just pursue the initial drawing in and of itself first, and we'll go from there. Yeah, and then I'll draw a couple more of these guys across the top. I don't know how interesting this is for folks, but it's the detail part is what takes the most of the time, right? Because you see how fast it is to just sort of chisel in the composition, but like I said, you've done a lot of that thinking for yourself in advance by doing it this way. Susanna says, it seems Mr. Huntsman knows how to draw everything. He could draw the man in the moon just because no one knows how he is. Well, that's the sneaky part of drawing the man in the moon, is that he's so elusive. Would you believe There's a man in the moon. A man in the moon. Could you believe? That last song was brought to you by REM. REM. Not just for sleep time anymore. Okay, so I've got this thrown in. I'll just put this large shadow area in. A little bit of crosshatch there. I know. You're looking at this drawing and you're like, we're going to get this guy's number. Hey, come on. Just leave him in the woods. Just leave him to do his own thing. Besides, you don't want to date guys like this. They fling poop. Okay, so we'll get some more tufts of... These kids got back hair. And then we can come in with a chisel tip and just make some shapes, some just cuts of value. I'll show you what my thinking is behind this. If I go over the edge, we're okay. Nobody's gonna cry and yell at me. Rest of work, I can't just in the square. You drew a square. You're not my mom. Okay, it's very nice of you, by the way, to say that, Suzanne. Okay, so now I'm just going to put little emphasis points in there just to build up the background as a bunch of complex patterns and shapes that are there. And if the camera were more focused, and if you look at it as from that perspective for the image you're drawing in the panel, if it was in better focus, you'd see leaves and trees and things. But that's not what's important. What's important is old Chester Polyester here in the front. The name of my first band, by the way. Chester Polyester and the Incredible Fruit Basket. It's good fun. She says, I believe that man got his Mrs. Man, so she's in the mirror. Yeah, she said, get over there. Get a picture of yourself before we take you to the salon and shave all your back hair off. So it's tricky because depending on the kind of paper you're using and the amount of this watercolor ink that you're putting down, you've got to keep an eye out for how workable your surface is, because oftentimes this is still bubbling up or wet if you've laid down too much of the watercolor pencil on there. So certainly keep an eye in there, Alright. I completely lost the measurement as soon as I did that. Goodness gracious. There we go. So I'll just square that across. It's a nice thing about a ruler like this is that you don't have to think too much about keeping things square or not, because it's all there. There's so many lines back and forth across this that it's automatically going to find you a nice square connection, and that's not half bad. Here's our next panel drawn in now. So let's do this guy's brother Bill. So I'm going to come in again with the chisel tip, just like we did in the first one, and so we're going to come in and we're going to lay on the second guy. We'll start in the center of his face, his nostrils here, okay, and then we'll give him a shorter brow ridge. different shape to his face. See, there I go with that chisel tip again. If I rest it too long, I forget this sometimes because it's a water base, that if I rest it too long, it will do this really heavy amount of pigment down. So you just got to keep moving quickly. Which is the name of my new aerobics album. Moving it quickly. With Nuwanda San Francisco, which is my aerobics name. Yeah, this all makes sense. So what did so we've done postcard 18 now. Is anybody finding that might be doing a postcard challenge or something like that? Do you find when you get to just past this halfway point where you start to feel like you're losing steam, or there's a part of you that's like, I'm running out of ideas? Because some people will do that, and there's, that's a completely understandable thing. It's hard. It's hard to keep, especially if you're not used to consistently producing an image a day, right? That it's hard to keep up that momentum and that, keep that amount of steam going in your engine there. That's what really becomes challenging for folks when they're doing something like this. And it's, sometimes you'll fizzle out at whatever. Well, I only got this many done. That's fine. Next time you might get more further along, but there's no point in people beating themselves up about it, right? Okay, so here's our first panel. Here's our second panel, and let's start with his eyes. The eyes that say, "Hey, everybody got a banana?" So we're putting in his the deep area around his eyes, part of his brow ridge here, and then we'll extend this out. This guy's the deep thinker. He's the deep thinker in this group. Am I missing stuff? Nope, we're all still doing what we're doing. Good stuff. And we'll give him less craggy wrinkles under his eyes, but we know they're there. He knows they're there. He's not getting enough rest. Time we at? 2:46. We're doing good. Good job, team. So I'm just defining his nose a little bit more. Sorry, I'm not very chatty today. Sometimes when we're going through stressful points in our lives and we have a release mechanism that, where it gives us some sort of sense of stability. For me, that's drawing. And, there's going through a challenging time in and of yourself, and there's going for people around you going through a challenging time, and you're wishing you could help. But if you can find something that gives you that sense of stability, lean into that. Give yourself that moment. Sit down and draw some monkeys. Oh, sit down and draw that your monkey. Once again, I know that they're apes. This guy's the thinker. He's a bit of a thinker. So I'm just working my way out from the point where the hair is really starting to move off of the brow. I'm working really lightly here to get a lighter line so that I can apply some different texture between the surface of the skin and then the hair around it. Can you hear it? Pardon me, sir, but have you any grape or pollen? And then the second ape says, banana? Did you say banana there, Bill? No. Keeping a track on things. So I've got the pen on a 45-degree angle as I'm making these light gray marks like this. But I've said this before, I'll say it a million times. When you do this, you have to take the pen and turn it out on a different surface so it gets that dollop of ink area. Like, you know, so as you turn your pen over like this, see this glob of ink right here is left there, and it doesn't smudge across your image. And then we'll do the third one. Because once you get going there, once you get into the flow of it, it just sort of lets you move fairly quickly in your drawing. Again, if this method works for you, it's just you sort of got to trial and error it, right? Yeah. Just get that. I just got to get the structure of the face here, and because there's, you know, there's so much dark value underneath the chin. Okay, so let's follow this hairline up here like this. My stone frame, yep. There's that top part. Stuff out here at the ear. So he's much closer in frame than the previous guy. Maybe I'll continue that motif with the third one. Maybe, no, making sure I'm keeping up with comments. I pre-planned what the text theme is going to be for the postcards, probably in advance, so that each day, like, so I have a master list, and which this is not, and so I just look at my master list, and then it tells me what today is. And I have a whole bunch of extra ones So if I ever do get a purchase of just a little block of time, I'll do some of the extra ones as well, like the letting the squig tones for Night Night, which is their 17. It's in relationship to the number 17. Ooh, ah, ooh. I knew you were going to leave me, girl. Ooh, ah, ooh. So I thought I'd leave you too. I say it's a bright song. Lenny and the Squig Tones. Lenny Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. Alright, so let's do the same thing in the background as we did with the previous one and throw in some of this abstract values. And then we'll pick a couple little areas to emphasize in that background. So that just lets you have a sense of complex shapes and values going on around them. Welcome to the Foreign Legion of Love. Welcome to the forest, baby. I'm Dave, and I will be your guest for tonight. Over here we have a log, and over here we have another log. And that's a tree, which is kind of like a log that hasn't fallen down yet. And over here we have, what is this? Oh yes, it's another log. And an ape, that means I love you. Ooh, ah, ooh. And I'm just measuring off the first one now. There we go. So there's the size of the third frame to draw in now, and I'll pull out in the camera so just it comes in. So here's our first two apes put in, and then we'll do one more. Did you finish yesterday's page? I did, and I've got it scanned, but I haven't assembled it yet. I haven't put the text on it yet. So I will be doing that after the stream today. Well, a little bit after, because we are going to go and drive a car. The Lenny and the Squig Tone albums was one of my favorites as a kid. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. But you made the wrong choice because you're dumb. Yeah, it was such good stuff. Ooh, ah, ooh. And here's a fun fact for people that don't know about Lenny and the Squig Tones. So they went on American Bandstand and they toured a bunch of locations and gigs throughout North America, at least. Well, they're still doing Laverne and Shirley, and so their band was an international band, and it was all just a bunch of North American guys with made up names. Like one guy's, "I'm from Sweden," and nobody from Sweden says, "I'm from Sweden." So the guitarist is Nigel Tufnell. And can anybody tell me what band Nigel Tufnell was in? Don't look it up. Just tell me if you know. No cheating, you little monkeys. I'll give you one hint. There's a moment in time where Nigel Tufnell tells somebody, usually when bands they get to 10, and that's as high as they can go, but this amp goes to 11. So yeah, that way we can keep rocking harder. Anyhow, it's Christopher Guest. Christopher Guest as Nigel Tufnell. And for those that might not know, Michael McKean, who played Lenny, and Christopher Guest as the guitarist Nigel Tufnell, as well as Harry Shearer, who does half the voices of The Simpsons, they were not only Spinal Tap, but they're also the journeyman, I think it is, in A Mighty Wind. So these three guys perform all kinds of music together in all kinds of different ways. But they're just brilliantly funny, and all three of these guys, well, Christopher Guest and Michael McKean is in Christopher Guest's comedy troupe. That includes Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, and so they've done all these different films, Waiting for Guffman, and all kinds of Best in Show. Mascots is a new one. I got Lori to watch them, and Lori tends not to be too experimenting with film, and so she's like, okay, I'll try it. And then we ended up watching all of their films because she really enjoyed them. And just good fun, good stuff. But when I make my O joke, that's from The Mighty Wind. It's about Old Joe's Cafe. I look for the sign where all the consonants are burnt out. So instead of saying eat at Joe's, it says E-A-O. Or E-A-O. Depends on what part of the film. Bob Balaban's in that group. Jim Luan says Christopher Runciman is my comedy troupe. Yeah, all of us. I'm so happy to hear that somebody else listened to that record as a kid. That's it's so good. Honey and the Squigtones. It's in Canada, the sort of that kind of an album in Canada was the Great White North by Bob and Doug McKenzie. And what's so great about that is that it's the opening track on that vinyl album was their introduction and their theme song, and it's so great because they got Geddy Lee to do the theme song for the show, and it's basically take off to the Great White North. Take off, it's a beauty way to go. They're like, yeah, that's me in the background playing guitar. Hey, take off, hey, no it's not. So I'd listen to that album over and over again. Yeah, that's me playing the triangle, eh? Take off, you don't even have a triangle there. Yeah, I do, you just didn't know. And of course, Bob and Doug McKenzie was an SCTV sketch because the Canadian government said you have to have more Canadian content in your show that you're making out here in Edmonton, so you've got to produce more Canadian content for the show. And so Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas and the crew were all trying to think of something. What can we do here? We got to get 2 more minutes in for the show of purely Canadian content. And so they're having some beers in the studio. And they just thought, let's make the most cliche, over-the-top, extremely Canadian jokes that we can. And so the Bob and Doug McKenzie brothers came out, and they got all these cases of beer all stacked around them, and having some back bacon and a little hibachi barbecue going on there, and just talking about nonsense. And they'd always fill the end of the episodes for that season with Bob and Doug. Hey, welcome to Great White North. But the problem with that is that I know so many Americans that think that that's how all Canadians are. So, and that's just totally not true, eh? Yeah, like I can't even believe you guys think that that's the way it is, eh? I don't know that that's necessarily too far off. And then they did their film Strange Brew because of how popular Bob and Doug were, and they had Bob and Doug days, and in the prairies they'd have Bob and Doug days where everybody would dress as Bob and Doug. Like, it was really popular in the sort of Canadian cultural zeitgeist for a little while there. I really look forward that Rick Moranis may one day return to doing a bunch of projects, because he was really such a brilliant comedian. But I respect that, he took the time off that he did because of things that were going on, challenges with his family, that he needed to be there for everybody. And then he chose to semi-retire so he could raise his kids. And you gotta respect that. You have to. That's far more important than him making Honey, I Shrunk the Kids episode 9. There's a franchise that's been driven into the ground. They did a television series based on those, and there was already a few of those films. I mean, how many times can you shrink your children? Okay, so here's our third ape coming together now, and because everything is all, you put that light blue in there, and you can move through that period or that process so quickly that when you're throwing those details in, you've really got everything all laid out for you, and it just makes it a faster process, I find. Now, I don't know about others, but if you can just allow yourself to be a little forgiving about those initial marks that you're making, and recognize that, as you're putting the details in, you're going to make up the difference of some of this. This guy's the funny guy in the group. He said he'll tell you a yoke. He'll tell you a yoke and a heartbeat there. He's got them yokes, folks. Hey, Zoonie Zoon. Welcome aboard. So pull out in just a sec so we can see that top quarter of the page done, and then we'll just go over the structure where the rest of that page from our layout's going to go. And then we'll talk about this method again. For anybody that might have joined in late, like our new friend Zoonie Zoon. Okay, so I just drawn in the face part here. Have I ever seen Letterkenny? Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen quite a bit of them. And then there's a spin-off show of Letterkenny called Shoresy, and they're both by Kelso, the lead guy. He's written, and he writes those himself and then directs them. And the other principal director of all the Letterkenny shows is the pastor in the small town. The guy says, "Oh my Lord!" I always respect famous people who sacrifice their career to focus on family. I didn't know that about Rick Moranis. Oh yeah, unfortunately his wife passed, and so he retired to be there 100% for his kids. So you have got to respect that. Yeah, he's brilliantly funny guy too. He'd have some comedy albums. He was quite the musician. there's here's a funny bit that they did on SCTV where they've got Eugene Levy, Rick Moranis, and John Candy, who are doing a high school band, a battle of the bands, and they're doing Chilliwack's Gone Gone Gone, she been gone so long, she been gone 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 so long. But you got three pubescent boys that are like, gone gone gone, she been gone so long, wonder ever go. It's so, they're so bad. But it's those three, and they're actually playing the instruments. So doing a high school version of My Girl. Okay, so now I'm following that outside edge, and then I'm using these little established points. So I'm going to come through here, right? And I'm going to follow this outside edge of that where the hair is. But because of these little spots that I've already put down with the intermediate value, I'm going to utilize those for the direction of the hair, and in the neck and the pit area, and how it relates to the chin. So without having to draw all of this information, because we've got this intermediate value in here, it just adds a little more something to it. Let me pull out and the zoom. So here's the three of them together now, and I've just got this third guy to fill out, and I'll leave a little area over there. We'll get a little more prominent brow ridge in on this cat. Deep thinker. Now that's your deep thinker right there. Okay, so here's our three, and so this is an 11 by 17 page, and we've already got the top quarter of it done within this this hour here. So here's our guys, and then it just becomes a case of, like we've done before, we'll fill out where the periphery of the hairline is here, and then we'll come in with this chisel tip again that we've been blocking this all in with, and then we'll put some abstract shapes and marks through here that is the intention to show that there's some, they're in the jungle, there's some complexity there. And so the trick is this, like I said before, if you come in immediately on this area, you got to be careful, because if you put it down too thick, like if you don't keep the water-based chisel tip marker moving fairly quickly, it's going to put too much moisture down on your page, and it can make it bow out a little bit. And then when you try to put the pen marks on it, this is where you can scratch it or mar the surface somehow. Okay, so here's our third guy. I wanted to take a big departure away from the page that I did in pencil crayon yesterday by coming in, because it's so very black and white, very minimal, that I wanted to play a little bit with these three-tier value. And so all we're using for today, like yesterday I used a white oil-based Sharpie and a black Laurentian pencil crayon. So that was what the page that I'll be posting later today is from yesterday. And then the tools that I'm using for today's drawing is this very cheap and inexpensive. This brand is called the Artist Series. These are for like a dollar store water-based marker. And it's got a chisel tip and a marker tip, and then a standard ballpoint pen. So as we laid out in the initial sketch for today's page, we've now done this much of it. There's our first three panels. Now the intention I laid out initially here is this additional panel that is basically going to tie these in together. So it'll come across here and to the outside edge and to the outside edge. But what I'm going to have to draw next, before I continue on with this page too much, is that if I establish that this is where about this edge of the paper is, okay, is going to be the bottom of the large frame that includes, that is a wide shot of the Congo, okay, the big forested area of the Congo there, because, and the reason that I want to put that line in very lightly is because what I'm going to have happening, so now I understand that this is the size of that image for the jungle, okay. The reason I put it in so lightly is that this next area that goes from here to this line here is going to be, in our sketch, a whole bunch of rampaging, charging apes with their limbs up in the air. Here, I'll zoom in for this part. Their limbs are up above them, and this one's charging forward, and he's got his big hands coming at you. Similar to, you know, when I'm sketching characters like these, right? Just large figures. Now these are supposed to be big muscle guys, but it's not too far removed from very ape-like features of the big hands and the large thick limbs and stuff like that. So it'll be, you know, a lot of these sort of action poses of these characters, all these apes all charging towards the viewer. And so what that allows us is all of this space throughout here and in and around these panels at the top part here. If this is the edge of our page, we've got spaces here and here for our titling to go across there, and then the dialogue throughout here can talk about the threats and dangers of coming across the white apes of the Congo. Now, were I to further the coloring of this page in the computer, where I've got the apes, I would leave clear, and I might put like a filter in the areas behind them, you know, to enhance the idea that the apes are very light-skinned, very white-skinned apes. In order, I might even make it a little more representable by having a dark-skinned ape in relationship to them. I don't know. I have no idea where this narrative is going, because, you know, as I usually do, I come up with it on the fly. But we've got our 3 smiling guys. Check mark. There's our Amazon layout. We got that figured out. We'll put it in after we do this part, which is the apes charging. So that's where it leaves me. So the white apes of the Congo is today's suggestion. And thank you very much for the suggestion. I'm not entirely sure who that's from. I didn't write it down like a just silly person. I'm very sorry for that. So if it's you, let me know. All right. So the other thing I showed for those that came in late was the cover for the new book. And if you've picked up the book that's out now, One Page Story Extravaganza, Alphabet Book is the next book that's coming out. And it's a portrait format book as opposed to the landscape format that One Page is. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with where this is going, and I'm really happy that we'll be having this all put together to submit to the Amazon. Not this Amazon that's in the drawing, but the Amazon that's all around the world. Yeah. And I appreciate everybody that's been picking up a copy of One Page. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what people are doing. So even if it's not, you know, I love to hear about people's projects is basically what I'm saying. It doesn't always have to be like a one-page suggestion or anything like that in the comments for any of the posts or any of the videos or stuff. If people want to let each other know what they're working on and stuff like that, I'm all for that. That's some good news. Okay, well, I think I got to get myself together here, folks, because I have. Well, let's do a couple things. I want to do a couple more things before I go, because I've got to get myself ready, because we're going to go and check out our new vehicular thing. So I wanted to show you an example of this, and I was trying to think of what really has a good representation of that intermediate color. And I know that Brescia does, but I'm trying to remember which one of the Brescia books it is. And so what I mean by that intermediate color is the stuff that we're applying today with the three values. Now, of course, the best one is and always will be Toth, right? So if you want to look at fun, and fine examples of the intermediate color, here, let me see. Here we go. Okay, so this is one of Alex Toth's Ratfink, Big Daddy Roth stories. And so there's elements in here, not just the shadowing on the arm, but there's some of the fine line details that help to define this number pad that he's got going here, or some interesting shapes of the clouds and the dates that are on here so they can fade those out. And so he's using that gray tone as that intermediate value, so he's getting X amount of his composition shelled in that way. And you know, that's, in all honesty, with all of the material that Toth has done over the years, no, that's the wrong one. I've got some Bravo. Let's see what's this. What's this? What's this? What's this? Okay, so here's another example. So this is another one of Toth's, and this isn't who I was thinking of showing you today, by the way. We've got color, black and white. No, see, this is the wrong one. I grabbed the wrong one. I have a lot of Alex Toth stuff because I really enjoy and appreciate his work. And it's the kind of... Is it Kriegstein? For some reason I thought Breccia was the one. No, the Kriegstein books in color. But if you take a look at pages like this, and you can see, like, look at all of this information that's in here. There's so much there to tell you about how... Maybe, I think I've been a bozo. I think it's Topi. Excellent. Well, no, Topi just uses... Well, I think maybe it was Topi. Topi uses a lighter line for an intermediate value. If you're not familiar with Topi, this is Topi's. Look at how wonderful. So he's got... In this instance, he has a gray pencil, a black ink, and then the white of the paper. So you can see how he gets this wonderful different value shift in the lines, so that you can see how he uses the three different values, the three different forms, in order to get all kinds of interesting high contrast and yet really fine interaction of the using the three things to define the foreground, the midground, the background. It's going to drive me crazy not remembering who that was or what that book was. Was it Mort Cinder? Maybe it was Arc. I think it might have been Arc. This is the book title. Is that available here? No. Okay, well, you know, anyway. So take a look at guys like these, where they have a really strong use of dark value, intermediate value, and light value, and can use the differentiation of those two things. And that's similar to the light blue, the white of the paper, and the dark blue for the details. You know, and most specifically in utilizing it in ways like this, just as a sketchy kind of a immediate way to get your drawings down, and then for the things that you want to pick out, like here's an air battle. Okay, so here's clouds, or maybe that's the landscape down below. I think it's the landscape, and those are rivers. And he's got the gray inside the plains, and yet he's taken that black ink and he's solidified the plains so that now they stand out in direct contrast to the white that's washed out beneath the plains, but the gray tone that is there to represent the ground. And so it allows for this more developed sophistication between what he wants you to focus on, which is the plains, but what he wants you to be aware of, which is how far away from the ground they are. It's similar to how, look, here's the second plane, the one that was chasing the first, okay? Here's the first plane crashed. Despite that, see how he cuts out here and defines He brings your focus of attention down to the crash with the tree. He's put a tree in the gray, and then he's followed the sky up like so, and he's left the white out within the smoke and the burning wreckage of the plane. Added in some of the details for the ground in our foreground here with a little flower. You know, as if to say, that's it, that's all she wrote. Flowers for the finale. So, great stuff. Alex Toth has always had great work. He's one of these guys that he truly was a master of the form. Here's another example of it. This is the burner. So see all the details that are in the face and the zipatone as the intermediate value, and yet he's got all the heavy contrast blacks for the heavy contrast white areas that he's left out that the surface of the paper comes through. But I mean, he's such a masterful grasp of this. Look, he's left the white line cuts across the composition, and those are bullets hitting the surface of this hole that this guy's trying to jump down and into as people are shooting from in front of them and overhead. But look at the high contrast in that face, because he's put those emphasis points in with that intermediate value. So the high contrast of the light on the eyes makes the eyes jump out. Or the same down below. Look at the night sky all laid in that gray, and he's developed the whole composition. But the high contrast that kicks in because he leaves both of those, the black and the gray value out for the lights. So now the lights really pop, right? If there's somebody for you to be looking at, that guy, Alex Toth. And you can find all kinds of his work online, and definitely worth the time to sit down and take a look at his approach. There's all kinds of notes that he had put up about animation and things like that. Well worth looking at. I'm trying to find, give me 1 second, in here there's a Batman. Okay, so this is the cover of Batman black and white. So Batman's gray on a black field on top of a white field, and then there's a gray circular field down below that. And then where the logo kicks in over top of it, those fields alter the values in the logo. I mean, that level of sophistication for understanding those three separate values and how you can create so much more activity and so much more depth in a drawing is well worth studying. Even if, the subject matter isn't necessarily subject matter akin to what you yourself are interested in or want to use to represent. I mean, the diversity of his drawings and the jobs that he did. In case anybody's wondering, he's the guy who designed all of the Saturday morning cartoons for Hanna-Barbera. The Super Friends is an Alex Toth creation. So, see again, here's the gray of the crowd to offset them from the black and white approach here. And then slight little emphasis points. But he would have had to, in his SketchUp for this, figure out, all of this line work in here. And he has little nuance, little pieces that still stand alone in the gray in order to just divide up the dark and the light. No more dancing. Go away, you nut. Out, out. And away goes the poor dancer. Such a good strip. But amazing work. See, here's some Conan drawings using black, gray, and white. None of this matters, but it's there, and you get the sense of they're fighting in caves. He's fighting against cavemen in the cave with just simplistic, abstracted shapes, Bravo for adventure. Such a great strip. See, and there's how he lays out the basic line work of a piece. He just looks for the shape language first, and then he picks and chooses lights and darks. So if you can think of your compositions in that way, and one of the ways it might help is to start roughing it in using a broad tool like this, and then tightening it up using a finer tool like that. right? Your white of your paper, whatever the base color of your paper is, the intermediate value there, and the high contrast value against the paper. Something to try. All right, I'll have this thing. I'll have today's page, which is still buried, I'm sorry, posted of karaoke, what is it? Car karaoke. And then I'll have posted this afternoon, and tomorrow I'll have the White Apes of the Congo posted for you, as well as tomorrow's postcard image. Thanks very much for hanging out, everybody. I got to get myself together now to head out and do something, but I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. Bye for now. Thanks very much for coming.